I'm Scoot, and this is the Daily Hit on the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. Glad you're with us. Let's talk about this new Gillette ad that has hit social media and some of the criticism. The ad is basically it's a message about the best a man can get, the best men can be. Now, this kind of goes back to 30 years ago when Gillette had this campaign, the best a man can get. And they were talking about their product, Gillette, the razors. The best a man can get is Gillette. And so the new campaign is this the best a man can get? In fact, basically, here's what the ad says. This is a transcript of the ad. This is a new Gillette ad that is getting some praise, but also getting some criticism. It's getting criticism because the question is this Gillette ad attacking toxic masculinity? And is that a bad thing? The ad starts off with these words: is this the best a man can get? We can't hide from it. It's been going on far too long. Making the same old excuses. Boys will be boys. But something finally changed, and there will be no going back, because we believe in the best in men. To say the right thing, to act the right way. Some already are, in some ways big and small. But some is not enough, because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow. This is an ad that does something that in the advertising world that's known as emotional bonding. They're not talking about how great their razors are. They're creating an emotional bond with the audience. And this is a brilliant way to reach cynical consumers. And for those of you who advertise products, if you have a business and you buy advertising, you should think about that. It's one of the things that I always specialize on my radio show when I do commercials for people, or when I do commercials here on the YouTube channel. It's about creating an emotional bond with the audience. And that's a great way to reach cynical consumers. But there's been some criticism, like, men are masculine. One comment was something along the lines of, what about the masculinity of the men that stormed the beaches of Normandy? I mean, is it fair? Is it fair to criticize masculinity? It's not fair to criticize masculinity, and I don't think this is a criticism of masculinity. It's a criticism of toxic masculinity. You don't have to harass women. You can appreciate, and as a straight male or a lesbian, you can appreciate beautiful women. You can appreciate a naked woman. But to objectify women is unnecessary. Sexual harassment, unnecessary. Bullying is unnecessary. And so often, the excuse for bullying is, boys will be boys. It's not acceptable. I think this new Gillette ad is absolutely brilliant. And if you haven't seen it, Google it and check it out. Just search new Gillette ad. It's 1 minute and 48 seconds long. And it's getting a lot of attention. Nobody becomes famous by staying in the middle. And I'm not talking about politics here. I'm talking about product. You have to say something. You have to stand for something. In some ways, the same with politics. But this ad gets people talking about Gillette, and I think that's a good thing. The criticism is that this was inspired by the hashtag #MeToo movement. Well, I mean, so what? Every man should have learned a lot. I don't know how much you learned. I don't know that I learned a lot, because I feel like as a man, I always knew what the definition of true masculinity was. And it wasn't a notch in the bedpost. It wasn't, having sex with a lot of women. It wasn't being an obnoxious macho person in social settings. It wasn't any of that. In fact, the true definition of a man is a man who can show his masculinity through strength at the right time, but also sensitivity at the right time as well. And there's nothing wrong with being sensitive. There's nothing wrong with understanding. You know, the definition of masculinity is not brute force. It's not being rough and tough. It's not having mock testicles dangling from the trailer hitch of your pickup truck. That's not what it means to be masculine. That's what it means to be Neanderthal. There have been some tweets that have been very critical. James Woods, one of the openly conservative actors in Hollywood, tweeted out that it's not fair to jump on men. This is a horrible campaign, and James Woods is going to start boycotting Gillette products. Okay, fine. But I think Gillette's going to get a lot of attention for this. It's an interesting ad. There are other comments and calls for a boycott of Gillette. But, you know, this is a good direction. And I love the idea that, you know, the boys today are watching the men of today. And the boys of today will become the men in the future. So if you're a guy, if you're a father, if you're a mother with a son, try to teach them the true meaning of masculinity. And the true meaning of masculinity is to be strong, to fulfill your role as a masculine gender in our species. But nothing about that says you have to be brutal. Nothing about that says you have to be overtly sexual, like that somehow defines your masculinity. Being sexually suggestive or harassing women. Again, a lot of people have learned a lot about the definition of masculinity since Harvey Weinstein and the #MeToo movement. Maybe you didn't learn as much as some people. I don't think I learned as much as some people, but it's nice to know the message is out there. Again, I want to thank you for being part of the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel, SOTA. You can subscribe. It's free. In fact, I'm very happy to report that we are now up to over 120 subscribers. It's free, and we'll give you an alert every time we do something. We've got some great interviews on the YouTube channel right now, and we've got more interviews planned. So become a subscriber, and we'll give you an alert next time we do something cool. And we do have some new interviews coming up.